At first, I genuinely thought she was just another nosy neighbor who didn't like dogs. You know the type, staring too long, whispering under her breath, acting like she owns everything she sees. But then, she pulled out a clipboard. A literal clipboard. That's when I realized this wasn't your average Karen moment. It was about to become a full-blown park patrol fantasy. With her sunglasses practically glued to her face and her posture screaming fake authority, she marched over and said, "I'm the acting community park representative today," like she had just been sworn in at some imaginary HOA headquarters. She waved her clipboard like it was some sacred document, then pointed to a bunch of printed-out rules that looked like they were made in Microsoft Word using Comic Sans. I glanced at the list, trying not to laugh. No dogs over 30 pounds. Max is 55 pounds of sunshine and fluff. No entry without a community badge. There's never been any such thing here. No barking allowed? I mean, what's next? Birds need a license to chirp? I asked her where she got this list, and she doubled down with a smug look, like she'd just checkmated me in some invisible game of authority. "These rules were approved last week," she said confidently, though there wasn't a city seal, signature, or even proper formatting on the sheet. I calmly explained to her that none of these rules were posted publicly and that this park has always welcomed dogs. But she cut me off and snapped, "You clearly don't know who's in charge." That's when I realized this wasn't about rules or dogs or community safety. It was about control. She wanted power and she thought waving a clipboard gave her that. Oh, Karen. If only you knew who you were talking to. Here's the real story. About a year ago, I bought a large piece of land just outside town. Not because I wanted to build something flashy or start a business, but because I had a vision. I imagined a place where families could gather, kids could play, and people like me could walk their dogs without hassle. A peaceful green space. So instead of developing it, I reached out to the local council and proposed something better. I'd donate most of the land to the city on one condition. It had to remain a public community park, free and open to everyone. They loved the idea. We worked together to plan the layout, trails, benches, trees, everything. I even helped plant the first row of maple trees near the walking path with my own hands. I wanted it to feel natural and safe, a space everyone could be proud of. But here's the catch. I never told anyone I was the one behind it. I didn't want credit. I didn't want my name on a plaque or people treating me differently. I just wanted to enjoy the park like anyone else. So every morning I brought Max, my golden retriever, for a peaceful walk. I'd wave to neighbors, toss a stick for Max, and watch the place slowly become part of people's lives. It was everything I had hoped for. That is, until Karen stormed in like she owned the ground she walked on. The irony? She was yelling at the one person who made the park possible, but she didn't know that. She saw a guy with a dog and assumed authority. That's the funny thing about people like her. They crave power so badly they forget to look around and ask themselves who actually built the space they're trying to control. And that day, she picked the wrong person to push. Karen didn't just stop at shouting across the park. She escalated things like she was starring in some low-budget courtroom drama. When I calmly told her I wasn't leaving, she marched straight in front of me and Max and physically tried to block the trail like she was some self-declared border patrol. Max, being the sweetheart he is, just sat down, wagging his tail, thinking it was some weird game. But I could see it in Karen's eyes. She was serious. Then she did something so absurd I had to stop myself from bursting out laughing. She reached into her oversized handbag, pulled out a cheap-looking carbon copy notepad and started scribbling. After a dramatic sigh and some furious pen tapping, she tore off the top sheet and handed it to me like it was an official court summons. It read, in all caps, $150 violation, unauthorized dog in park. I blinked at the paper, stunned by the sheer confidence of this woman. I asked her calmly, "Ma'am, you're not legally allowed to fine anyone. You're not law enforcement. This park has no such rule." She didn't flinch. Instead, she raised her eyebrows, shoved a plastic badge in my face that looked like it came from a Halloween costume, and said, "You're not allowed to talk back. Either pay the fine or I'm calling the police." By now, people in the park were watching from benches, walking trails. Even a guy on a bike stopped just to listen. It felt like a live reality TV show, except the villain was wearing designer heels and had clearly forgotten how laws work. I looked around, took a deep breath, and realized something. This had gone too far. She wasn't just trying to boss me around. She was creating public drama, trying to humiliate me. But what she didn't know, what nobody yet knew, was that I wasn't some random dog walker. And if she wanted to make it official, fine, I'd go official too. That was the moment I decided it was time to remind her exactly who she was messing with. With half the park now gathered around and Karen still ranting like she was leading some kind of revolution, I decided enough was enough. She was still going on about calling the police, park violations, and who knows what else, waving that ridiculous fine around like it held actual power. I calmly reached into my back pocket, not to pull out cash, but to pull out something way more important. I took out my wallet, opened it slowly, and removed a folded-up document. It was slightly worn from being carried, but the seal was still clear. I unfolded it and held it up in front of her. "You see this?" I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. "This isn't a dog license. This is the official deed to the land you're standing on." She blinked, confused at first, then leaned in slightly. That's when I added, "You're yelling at the man who donated this park to the city. I own the trail, the benches, even that patch of grass you're stomping on with your expensive shoes." Her entire face changed. Her smug grin dropped like a rock. Her eyes darted around, realizing people were listening closely now. Her mouth opened, maybe to argue or deny, but nothing came out. I took the fake fine from her hand and gently tore it in half. "This isn't Monopoly, Karen," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. There was a pause, then laughter. Real, loud, unfiltered laughter from people all around us. Even the jogger who always keeps to himself gave me a thumbs up. A kid riding a scooter laughed so hard he almost fell over. Karen, meanwhile, stood frozen, her clipboard dangling in one hand like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She looked like someone who had just realized they were trying to evict the landlord. For the first time since she stormed up to me, she was completely silent, and in that silence I knew. She finally understood she had picked the wrong person, in the wrong park, on the wrong day. After realizing the complete mess she had created, Karen's confidence deflated like a balloon with a slow leak. She mumbled something about just trying to keep order, and awkwardly turned around, her voice barely above a whisper now. On her way out, she almost tripped over Max's leash, which felt like poetic justice. Max just tilted his head in confusion, as if wondering why the angry lady was walking like she'd lost a battle, which, honestly, she had. People around the park were still chuckling, a few shaking their heads and one even clapped quietly. I didn't rub it in. I just gave Max a pat, took a deep breath, and continued our walk like we always did. But later that week, I decided to make something very clear for the future. I headed to the city office and officially requested updated signage for the park, big, bold, and friendly. The new signs read, "Dogs welcome, especially golden retrievers named Max." When those signs went up, people absolutely loved it. Kids took photos with Max next to the signs, neighbors started bringing their own dogs more often, and the entire mood of the park shifted into something even warmer, more open. Since that day, I've been a little more open about my connection to the park. Not bragging or anything, but if someone asks, I tell them. People appreciate knowing the story behind it, and it's brought the community even closer. Now when I walk Max, we get smiles, head nods, and the occasional treat offered his way. No more clipboards, no more yelling. As for Karen, well, let's just say she hasn't been back since. But rumor has it, she tried to volunteer at another nearby neighborhood park. I can only imagine how long that lasted. I truly wish them luck. Some Karens never change, but at least now, everyone knows who the park really belongs to. The people, their pets, and the golden retriever who inspired a new sign. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Unfair Stories, because here, we tell the stories the world wants to hide.